This verse, Lamentations 3:22 and 23, is a wonderful verse to hear because of the Lord's great love for us. We are not consumed. His mercies never fail. His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And you can imagine the author of this verse kind of, being on some kind of spiritual high, just, kind of in a place where they can just see the goodness of God everywhere and everything's going well, the sun's shining and, everything's going just better than he could possibly expect to go. Everywhere he looks, each morning brings a new dawn of wonder and experience of all the blessings of God. And yet this, if you look at the book in which this verse is found, it's found in a book which is probably the darkest book of the Bible, just a series of laments. And when you look at even verse 3, the author is in a place of desperation, anguish. Some of the descriptions of the fall of Jerusalem, which is the context for this, are horrifying. So somehow the author of this verse, probably Jeremiah, found something within him to make this declaration. Jeremiah was an eyewitness, we believe, of the destruction of Jerusalem. And he saw these horrors. He saw slaughter, cannibalism, human hatred and vengeance, on a scale that we can probably only imagine. And yet he was able to declare the goodness of God. His compassions never fail. His mercies new every morning. Great is his faithfulness. Sometimes, have we found ourselves in circumstances in life which are dark? I think many of us will face that, where we look around and it's really not immediately evident what the goodness of God is in our present circumstances. And what do we do in those places? How did Jeremiah do this? And it's, I don't know, sometimes it feels easy just to talk about change of mindset and let's just think about the positives, let's count our blessings, and yet, I don't know, it takes for me something deeper than just some, kind of mental tricks and gymnastics. I think of a verse in Isaiah 54 which says, "Who among you fears the Lord and obeys the word of his servant? Let him who walks in the dark, who has no light, trust in the name of the Lord and rely on his God." And then I think of Psalm 77, which is a psalm where the psalmist is struggling in anguish with his present circumstances. And it says, "Then I thought, to this I will appeal. The years when the Most High stretched out his right hand, I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago, and I will consider all your works and meditate on all your mighty deeds." And there's Psalm 77, another psalmist says, again struggling with difficult circumstances, but makes this declaration, "For you have been my hope, sovereign Lord. Since my youth, you have been my confidence." And I think for me, and I think for Jeremiah maybe as well, that when you get into a place which is really dark, you need to draw on something that's deeper. You need to find some kind of seam of gold within yourself that you can mine, that will sustain you. And actually, I wonder if that is, you can remember, although the circumstances that you might be in now are overwhelming, you can remember the years when God has shown his faithfulness to you. You can consider and meditate on your years of the right hand of the Most High. You know, all the times when you were before in situations which were dark, in places where you couldn't see a way of escape, and yet God did something that you were not expecting. He demonstrated his power and love for you before. And you know what, I think the longer you go on as a believer, as a child of God, you start to build up a treasure of times when God has come through for you that you can draw on. And I just wonder with this, that, you know, Jeremiah had gone through many years of learning the ways and character of God. You know, God had brought him through so many things, and he had a deep kind of seam of gold within him that he could mine at this desperate hour when he was sitting in a destroyed city. You know, the temple had been desecrated, everything that was good, everything that he'd hoped for in the nation of Jerusalem had been wiped away, and yet he was able, even in that moment, to draw on something that enabled him to rise up from the sea of awful circumstances. And you know, even in the book of Lamentations, it's like this beacon, this lighthouse rises up almost miraculously from the dark tossing seas of the circumstances and the verses and the other lamentations that precede it and come afterwards, like a beacon of light declaring something which is eternally true, which is the character of God, which never changes, and which we experience, and we have experienced since our youth. And you know, and that is where you go, and that for me is where, you know, that's where Jeremiah went, and that's where you go when you're in circumstances which, you know, you look at them with a natural eye, and actually it's really hard to see God's goodness in them. You go deeper, and you go to the years of the right hand of the Most High that you have experienced, and you say, God's going to do it again, because he doesn't change. He hasn't changed for me, and he's not abandoned me. He isn't going to. So even though it looks dark, this is going to be another one of those circumstances where he will show himself true and faithful again.